What's up, everybody? I'm Jeremy, and this is another episode of Gardening with Chuck. Hey, what's up, guys? So, it's that time again. It's February 2nd, Groundhog Day. The groundhog saw his shadow, or didn't, I never know. But anyways, it means 6 more weeks of winter. It's fine, because we don't need to wait for spring to get here before we start doing what we need to do. I'm gonna show you today is how to prepare, reuse your seedling trays, previous pots from plants that you purchased in the past, pots that you've had, pots that people gave you. If you're like me, all of the gardeners or anyone who knows me or sees me walking with plants or produce, they know I garden, so they're always finding or collecting pots for me, and so I have so much. I hope I never need to buy any. But what you do need to do before you reuse them to replant, start seedlings, up pot, anything, is to make sure that they're safe for those new babies. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to clean these trays. They need to be sterilized, sanitized, and not so much, yes, for the coronavirus, but not because of that, really. Like, if you're like me, you know how long the virus lives on certain surfaces. It's been months, almost a year. There's no virus hanging out here. This is not a freezer. This is not an incubator. There's no virus hanging out on these surfaces. But apart from that, they've been stored in my car or under a table in my apartment, or even in a garden shed. And so no one's been around them. But you know what? It doesn't matter because of that. Like I said, there are pests and there are certain types of diseases. They burrow themselves in the soil, and any leftover soil or dirt that ends up in the bottom of the trays or the bottom of the seeds or on the edges, sometimes they're wet when you repot them and there's little crust of soil. They can come back to life, be rejuvenated by water, by fresh soil, by plants, and they will, if there is that disease, if there are those pests, they will come back and they will do damage to your current plants. So an easy way to do that is just get some water, literally from the sink. If that's what you had, is fine. You're gonna take some bleach. I didn't measure it out. I would say about a half a cup. And you're just going to rinse the dirt off first. Then you're going to put them in the water bleach solution. I have an old toothbrush that I'm gonna use because you really want to get inside the holes. You really want to get into the bottom of the seed trays, underneath, inside. You really want to just make sure you cover it all, because things like spider mites, things like there's gnats, just so many things that are most of the time invisible to the eye until you see your plant dying and you don't know why. And so this is step one in the process of making sure that you have healthy plants that grow up and survive and thrive. So let's get started. Here I have a bucket, and I put like I said, a half a cup of bleach, and I filled it to about right there, maybe a quarter of the way from the bottom with water. And I just put it in this bucket to give me depth, because I have my seed trays here, so I want to be able to put them in there and them be in there. My sink is bigger than the bucket, so if I do that, I'm gonna have to use more water and more bleach. And I don't wanna do I don't want to get into that. Plus, also my sink doesn't have good drains. I mean, good plugs. Like this doesn't fit correctly. I live in an apartment in the city, and so if you know anything like that, sometimes things just don't work, and it's not that serious to have someone come, especially during the pandemic. Everything drains fine. It doesn't plug, but that's fine. We make it work. This bucket I literally bought it at Dollar Tree for $1. I also bought bleach there for $1. I'm using an old toothbrush, and then these are seed trays. There's 2 of them. I've dumped all the dirt and things out of them. As you can see, there's still leaves and stuff stuck in there, but I'm sure apart from those leaves are also little critters that thought that would make a great house. But we're not having that. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna dump it in the water solution. We're gonna scrub it with the toothbrush, get deep in there, both sides, on the sides, everywhere. And then we're gonna set it on the counter and paper towel to dry. And that's part of the main step, is to have it just air dry on the counter, so that the solution sitting there in the air is what kills the remaining. And then once it's dry, 10-20 minutes after that, we will rinse it off in regular water, because of course we don't want any of that residue hanging out in there to be also revived with water and plants, and to seep through and damage our plants. Bleach of course is not good for your plants, so don't put bleach or bleach water in your plants at any stage unless you don't want them. But it's also not good for the soil, so it's not good, period. Alright, let me get situated and I'll show you what I'm doing. What you'll do is continue with putting the brush and the cells in the solution, scrubbing the bottom, the sides, through the bottom of the holes, the top, all around thoroughly, making sure they're covered in the solution, and you brush off any debris, and it looks just like this. Now I'm going to turn it over the bucket, of course, in case anything spills out. It's going to be in the sink in the bucket and not on the floor. I mean, there's bleach there. Now I'm just going to do the same thing on this side, in between the cells, around the cells, and then over the holes of the cells, just to make sure that we got it covered. And then I'll show you how I'll lay them. Alright, so I finished each half. Each half took, there's 36 by 30, or 6 by 6, which is 36 on each half. So that's 72. So there's 72 spaces to plant into in this one tray. I am also going to wash the bottom tray and the trays that hold them together and hold the water so they don't drip everywhere. I'm going to do the same for those. That's pretty obvious. It's like a dish. So it's nothing new on how to do that. But I just washed them and I've let them set here. I'm going to let them sit here for 10, 15, 20 minutes until they're dry. I don't want to see no wet. And so until they're dry, I'm going to rinse them off in lukewarm water very thoroughly, and then put them back here to dry completely again. And then tomorrow I'll be able to show you how to plant some seedlings in these. I'm going to be starting my peppers and my tomatoes in here. I'm choosing this one because the most places to plant in a small area, because I have a heating pad, and I know tomatoes and peppers do the best with the heating pad, at least where I live. And I love peppers. I probably will fill half of this with just different varieties of peppers, and then the other half will be for tomatoes, to have a space, because I love both of them and I have so many varieties of each. So between what I want, what I need, and my extra projects that I'm trying to do, I know this isn't it, but this is where I'm starting. I just want to show you the water. It's pretty dirty. As the toothbrush down there and the leaves that I threw out. The water's pretty dirty, so obviously it needed it. And like I said, so we're almost done. And so the last thing I wanted to tell you that I realized as I was going is that I'm wearing glasses because they're prescription and I need glasses. But I was, getting the system down and the little holes, the drain holes and the little toothbrush, and I'm sure you know it flicks water and stuff. I got a little sprinkle on my cheek and I freaked out, but then I was like, well, I have glasses, so if anything splattered in my eyes, I'm safer. But just be careful with that. If you're using a towel, it might be better for less splashing. But then also you're gonna have to put your whole hand in the bleach water. So you're gonna need more equipment, more gloves, or whatever you do, however you do it, just be careful. Your clothes, the floor, if you have rugs around the sink. I mean, it's bleach. If you clean with bleach, if you wash clothes with bleach, if you've ever had bleach, you know what it is and what it does. So be mindful of that. Do it safely. We're not trying to get a good start on the season and then have somebody injured because they're too excited. So be careful. Do it your way. You would use the same type of solution for any pots that you want to reuse. The only exception I will say will be terracotta pots, and those are because they're porous, they absorb, and they hang on to water. And I want to say maybe use a little less bleach or a lot less bleach for those, but definitely they need to be cleaned as well. I don't know what the solution would be, and I know that there are recommendations out there. I don't use terracotta pots where I live and how I garden in the last 2-3 seasons, so it's not something that I'm going to be focused on or working with. I just know that they're very porous, and so be mindful of that if you do use the same solution, because they will hang on to that bleach water more, and you don't want that. I don't think it might even weaken the structure of the pot. Actually, I just looked up and I forgot I have a terracotta pot that I had an aloe vera plant in, but it's just a pot there. So, but if you're reusing previous pots from last year that you didn't throw away because you thought you should hang on to them, or you were trying to recycle them and you couldn't ever find a place and you still have them, don't throw them away, use them. Plastic pots, containers, big or small, if you bought a bush or a tree, or they come in so many sizes. Reuse them, and there's make sure you clean them before you do, and then after that there are so many ways to use them without filling them full of dirt. And so maybe I'll cover those, some tips and tricks with that I've picked up along the way. But that's all for now. I'm gonna finish waiting for these to dry, wash the trays, and I have a ton, like I said. The other ones are bigger. They're like individual pots. They're not giant, but they're bigger than this tray. So I'm thinking it might be better and easier to be able to dip them, submerge them in the water, clean them, one by one. They're a little bit hardier plastic than these. So hopefully this is the hardest part and I got it over first. All right, we will see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, one thing I do want to add is do this indoors. Do it in your bathroom sink, kitchen sink, even your tub. Do not do this outside. Do not do it outside. Bleach kills, and it's bad and it's damaging to our environment and to the ecosystem. If you were to pour a bucket of bleach water outside, even if there's weeds or rocks or cement, it goes into our water. And there's earthworms, there's tons of life in between the earth and and where it ends up, and it will kill everything. And we need those things to thrive for our plants to thrive. And they're not all visible to your eye. There's no reason for it. These drains will take it to a better place than your backyard or your garden. You do not want this on your grass. You don't want this in your flower beds. Don't think that you got wiser and took it outside and splashed it all over. Don't do that. You're gonna regret it. Even if you don't want the weeds that you're doing it over, there's plant life and insects that we need in our gardens. And if you're being counterproductive, then don't even bother. Buy new ones and recycle the old ones. That's my take on it.